Now, the last thing I want to look at in this video series is patterning. Slightly off the topics we've been looking at, but still a very important subject. Patterning or hatching works the same way as it does in 2D, but you have to consider some important points. Now, let me show you what I mean. I'm going to first place a block in the view, and I'm in isometric, so I want to change it to that rotation. Here comes my block. And I'm going to place a solid primitive. Change that to that. Let's do that and that and that. So there's a plain block and there's a solid slab. Let's change this to 8. Again, rotated point on the block. That's better. Now it looks okay, but I guarantee you that's not a 45-degree hatch. Let's find out. Let's do a rotate. No, it's not 45 degrees, more like 60 at best. So no guarantee that you'll get to see a 45-degree hatch in this orientation. If you wanted a 45-degree hatch, then you're best off using one of the other 3 standard views so that you see this face on. Let's try that. Let's undo that. Let's tile and let's maximize everything so we can see what we're doing. Let's try the right view. And let's turn off hatching. There we go. So here's my block. Let's see if we can hatch that. Now we have 45 degrees. So if you hatch in a view where the plane that you're hatching in is parallel to the view, you're much more likely to get the angle of hatch that you want. So far, so good. Back to isometric. Let's try the block now. Things are still running. Now, this is where it gets interesting. If I try to use the element option for hatching, it won't let me. It's the wrong element. Can't be used. All right, so let's try flood. Okay, let's flood this area. But look where it actually floods. There's nowhere where I can get the actual full face. So if I do that, or if I do that, then what do we see? Let's have a look and see what we get. Rotate. Very strange looking hatches in all sorts of different planes, in different locations. Let's undo those 2. You might want to try the points method. That sometimes works, so let's try that. Let's rotate this to where it is. And we pick the points of this face. There we go. And now that's done it fine. Let's do a rotate. Yeah, that's cool. So that's working okay. And it's 45 degrees. But we really haven't hatched this surface. We've created a surface on which the hatch is placed by picking points. So we really haven't selected that slab at all. And this is really the only way you can apply a hatch to a solid, is to actually attach, if you wish, another planar face to the solid, which is great if you have planar faces. If you don't, if there are curves, then there's no way you can hatch it. However, it gets worse. If we shade this view, then we see that. And the hatching is kind of visible, but only partially, certainly not very acceptable. So a smooth rendering will sometimes completely obliterate or partially obliterate the hatch. But if you render, in which case the solids have materials attached to them, then the hatching is completely obliterated and you won't see it at all. So there's only certain conditions where you will actually see a render. However, experiment with similar planar figures and solids and see what results you get. Keep in mind that you can generate a hatch in a render if you apply a graphic of a hatch as a material, as you'll see later on when we get to materials and rendering.